Hi, my name is David P. Shapiro. I'm the owner and managing partner of the law office of David P. Shapiro, located in San Diego, California, where my firm helps good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime. In this video, I want to talk to you about something that so many people have been focused on coming out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and that is the killing of another producer on the set of the movie Rust, involving Alec Baldwin and many others. Obviously, this case is getting a lot of attention due to the fact it was on set of a Hollywood film, due to the fact we're dealing with Alec Baldwin, well-known celebrity, very political figure by his own doing, the better part of his career, particularly the last 5-6 years or so. But what is important to note is the investigation going on as it pertains to involuntary manslaughter. What is involuntary manslaughter in New Mexico, and how that compares to what involuntary manslaughter would be here in California is the primary focus of this video. So what we know, at the late part of October, I believe it was October 27th, Santa Fe sheriff and the head prosecutor out there did a press conference, and they talked about things. I'm looking down and reading that there was a complacent attitude towards safety on the set. Okay, well, that matches up to committing a lawful but dangerous act without exercising due caution and circumspection. Okay, what does that mean? Basically, it's criminal negligence, right? So you were reckless and negligent in, a duty that was you were in task with, and you didn't do something you were supposed to do. So let's break that down person by person, right? California, first off, there is misdemeanor manslaughter, so you're committing an offense that otherwise would not be a felony, and someone dies. So we see misdemeanor manslaughter a lot in California. You're committing a misdemeanor, reckless driving, somebody dies, or even like a traffic infraction, you roll through a stop sign, kill somebody, you could be charged with a misdemeanor offense of misdemeanor manslaughter. There's also involuntary manslaughter in California, which carries up to 4 years in prison, of which you would have to serve at least usually 50% of that sentence. And that talks about situations, obviously, where there's no intent to kill, but you're doing an act that obviously causes the death of another. Here in New Mexico, what they're going to be looking at as it relates to Baldwin is, why would you not, what obligations do you have first as an individual actor before firing a weapon to confirm that it's not loaded? And secondarily, or maybe even primarily, as it relates to his criminal liability, is what criminal negligence liability does he have as one of the executive producers on the set, right? So he was more than just an actor on that film, on that set in Santa Fe. They're also going to be looking at the armorer, the person who's in charge of dealing with the weapons and responsible for caring for the weapons on set. My understanding is that the gun was secured, but the ammo was not. That could be a problem. Whether or not that rises to criminal negligence for purpose of New Mexico Statute is a whole other issue. And then also the assistant producer, who is alleged to have handed Baldwin the gun immediately before he fired it and shouted out "cold gun" or "cold weapon," implying that the weapon had been checked for bullets or actual bullets and that there were none. Obviously, and unfortunately, we know that was not the case. So a couple of things that stood out to me watching that press conference the last week of October is also they talked about how there was some complacency, using the word some, and that all options were on the table. So, hearing them say some complacency, that leads me to believe that unless they get more than what they might have had by the end of October, I don't anticipate criminal charges being filed. I could be wrong or mistaken in my expectation at this point, but that is my belief based on the press conference that I watched and the evidence that's out there as of the end of October, the first week of November of 2021. Something also to keep in mind for everyone, banging the drum to lock this one up and lock that one up and everything else. Well, it's important to know that in New Mexico, involuntary manslaughter carries a maximum penalty of 18 months in prison. So, this is not going to be a lengthy sentence, even if someone is charged. And obviously, just because they're charged doesn't mean they are going to be convicted. So we need to be mindful of that. We also need to be mindful this may be something better dealt with in a courthouse of civil nature, as it certainly should be, due to the loss of life. And the prosecutor out there in New Mexico should be commended for, at least at this point, not rushing to judgment, trying to conduct a fair and thorough investigation, obviously led by the sheriff's department out there. And, more than some complacency. I personally don't envision them, one, filing charges, and two, if they do file charges, being successful in getting a conviction at trial if the case were to proceed that far. But certainly something to keep an eye on. We will certainly do our part here at my firm to look at it, to comment on it, both publicly and private, information to the public as possible so everyone can really understand what's going on, what the burden of proof is, what the elements of the offense are in New Mexico compared to what we might know them to be here in California. So if you have any questions about an involuntary manslaughter or any manslaughter charge in California, please give my firm a call, 619-295-3555. Again, we are the law office of David P. Shapiro, where we help good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime. 619-295-3555.